Okay, now this is part 3, and I'm going to try to be a little more upbeat here, and I'm sorry if I depressed you or upset you. When I read this, I feel like this is a culmination of the last 7 years of my life since she was diagnosed and passed. I feel like it's too late for my mother, but it's not too late for others to have this information and do what they will with it. Take it to your doctor. Of course, if you have a child and you take this to your doctor, just keep in mind that places like the Akron Medical Center might take your child away from you and sue you for medical custody of your child if you're too open about these things, because you don't really have rights as a parent when it comes to cancer. They want to force your kid to have the standard treatment, and they might try to force you too. Keep that in mind. But this doctor, PhD, not a medical doctor, okay, Stephanie Senff from MIT. It's a very complicated article, but I took organic chemistry and biology, so I can understand it. And I took metabolism. She has a bachelor's in biology with a minor in nutrition, and then she went on to get a PhD in computer science. She's a senior research scientist at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. She has a bachelor's degree from MIT with biology with a minor in food and nutrition. Her PhD is in computer science. Okay, and she has authored several recently published papers on theories proposing that dietary deficiencies in critical nutrients such as sulfur, which my mom was taking when her tumors were going away, taurine, which is an amino acid she was also taking, zinc and choline, as well as insufficient sun exposure. I didn't mention before, but my mother had avoided the sun for 30 years. She was 100% Irish. And they told her she was at an increased risk of skin cancer, and she did not go outside without sunscreen, long sleeves, and a sun hat for 30 years. Also to mention, I asked several times for them to test her vitamin D, and not once in the 4.5 years that she struggled with cancer, not once was her vitamin D tested. Of course, that was a few years ago. Now they probably would. So, as well as insufficient sun exposure compounded by chronic exposure to toxins, such as statins, can explain many modern diseases and conditions such as autism, heart disease, obesity, arthritis, and Alzheimer's, and it goes on. So this is who we're talking about. She knows her physiology. She knows biochemistry. She theorizes that the tumor is trying to help your body, because when you have a deficiency in sulfate and cholesterol, because of the vitamin D sulfate that your body makes from the sun, your body also, cholesterol is in the form of cholesterol sulfate. So if you take a vitamin D supplement, like with cod liver oil, or just vitamin D by itself, which these guys don't recommend actually, they recommend the cod liver oil, but either way, if you get it from food, it's not going to have the sulfate attached. So you would need the cholesterol sulfate, and then your body can take the sulfate from the cholesterol and the vitamin D, okay? And then you have the vitamin D sulfate, which is the water-soluble form that you get from the sun. So she's talking about this, and she's talking about a sulfur deficiency. She doesn't mention iodine at all, but I believe iodine is very important too. It got rid of my fibrocystic breast lumps completely. So something to note, because and iodine is, anyway, separate. But, so she talked about what happens is your cell, and this is, something to do with diabetes too. Your cell, you've got your blood, like your blood sugar. But if your blood sugar is high, it's because A, you're eating a lot of sugar, and or B, your cells can't take the sugar in. Your cells need sugar for energy. It's called glycolysis. It's a process. They take sugar, they make it into energy in the form of ATP. And I don't want to get too complicated, but I did take this in biochemistry and metabolism, so I know what she's talking about. If for some reason your cells can't take in the sugar because of what's on the cell membrane, which are proteins called glycosaminoglycans, and other proteins that she mentions, which is like a little over my head because she is awesome, okay? But I'm familiar with these from biochem. See, your cell membrane has receptors. They're like little keyholes, you know, like this USB cord. It has to have a certain fit. Here's your cell membrane. If you want sugar to go in there, you've got to have this protein. It's a transmembrane protein to either carry it through or create a little hole for the sugar to go through. And she's postulating that sulfate, cholesterol, both of those, from vitamin D, from the sun, and cholesterol, which your membrane is made of cholesterol, which statins lower, will not allow sugar into the cell. So what does your body do when you don't have sugar in your cell? Well, if you've heard of Otto Warburg and you want to know why it matters what he said, it does matter, but it doesn't exactly, according to her, mean what people think it means. People think, well, cancer can't survive in an alkaline environment. That's not what he discovered. What he discovered was that cancer cells are acidic, and that is different than what people have interpreted it to mean. The reason that a cell becomes cancerous and is acidic, or one reason, when the sugar cannot get into the cell, it uses another process, which is using lactic acid as energy instead of sugar. So that's why cancer cells are more acidic. Tumors eventually, when it gets out of control, form blood vessels all over. What starts happening with this, the tumor starts making something called heparin sulfate. Yeah, heparin sulfate is important for nutrient uptake, and that's what you actually want to have in your membrane. But you can't just have it floating around in your blood, from what I understand. It can gel your blood. Your blood can't be thick. You know what I'm saying? You can't have it. So it needs to be right there on the membrane of all the cells. But for some reason, if all your cells don't have enough cholesterol and sulfate, and they don't have this, what they need, then your body creates a tumor, according to her theory, to manufacture and spit out heparin sulfate that your body needs. So it takes the sugar out of your blood that's not supposed to be so high when you consume a high carbohydrate diet, and starts making these sulfates that your body needs. It's actually manufacturing sulfates. It's interesting. Like, people can actually manufacture B12 as well in their gut, but it doesn't really usually happen because it's very difficult. So it's good to get it from your diet. So the argument that she's posing, okay, is that the tumor is trying to help. Now, she doesn't address the whole she does not address the whole exploding tumor thing, but she does relate it to breast cancer and prostate cancer, which produce a different form of sulfate, which is estrone sulfate. Prostate cancer makes cholesterol sulfate instead of estrone sulfate. The point is, they're making sulfates, and they're all synthesized, and they're making these because your body's lacking what it needs to do that. She says, I suspect estrone sulfate becomes a source of sulfate for the synthesis of heparin sulfate. Okay, because the heparin sulfate is important. So that's for nutrient uptake, signal transduction, ion exchange across the membrane, like I was talking about. So sulfate depletion, she says, and she cites all of this based on other studies, in heparin sulfate is associated with a large number of diseases, including diabetes, which makes sense if we're talking about blood sugar, autism, high blood pressure. Wait, didn't I say my mom got off her blood pressure medicine? Digestive disorders and kidneys, which autism is a digestive disorder, so. Her colleagues and she have argued that sulfate deficiency rather than excess cholesterol, which statins lower, is the major cause in heart disease, and she actually explained that as well, the process of the heart disease aspect, but I'm focusing on cancer right now. The thing about tumors is they release the heparin sulfate, but you can't really have it in your blood, so it also releases an enzyme with it so that your blood doesn't turn into jello. So your body knows what it's doing, and then it sends it out to your body so that your cells can get energy. So when you kill that tumor, you're killing your body's ability to get energy, which is why when people are on chemo, they don't have energy. They can't heal, okay? They don't want to eat. And that's why the activity in the tumor decreases. And I can't get into everything with this, but she explains that, and she explains the connection to statins in a section called Treatment Strategies Targeting Connective Tissues. If you've heard of cholesterol medicine causing muscle weakness, she explains what's happening is because of a breakdown of things called matrix metalloproteins. She's theorizing. Because researchers used to want to give these things to cancer patients, and it caused the same symptoms that people get with cholesterol medicine, okay? They wanted to give them these enzymes called metalloproteinases, so they break down MMPs, matrix metalloproteins. So it's kind of like the proteolytic enzymes my mom was taking, that I was like, maybe that was the only part I might disagree with. So it caused the same muscle weakness that people get with cholesterol medicine, and she's postulating that it is doing basically the same thing. Because cholesterol synthesis is in your liver, so why would cholesterol medicine affect your muscles? They're not even connected, right? Well, she's explaining that they are. Because your body needs that cholesterol to get into the membrane so that, along with sulfate, to take nutrients into the cell so that you don't get cancer. But once you have cancer, your body makes a tumor. It starts making sulfate manually through lactic acid fermentation. So she goes on in another section, and then I'll wrap it up, how to protect yourself from cancer. And like I said, I think she did leave out iodine, okay, because of all the halogens that have been added to our food. Iodine is a halogen, but it hasn't been added. It's been taken away and replaced with bromine and fluoride and chlorine, all of which are related to cancer. Okay, and iodine has been documented to decrease breast and prostate cancer. So it's the only thing she missed. So she's saying in here, a synopsis, that what she's concluding is that sulfate deficiency is the relationship here. And also she stated a study that mammograms, this has been proven, because of the radiation and because they detect these tiny little things that would normally, some of them may go away on their own, are actually doing more harm than good, okay? And so, anyway, so she's saying it's the sulfate tissue. The best way to protect yourself is to optimize for the supply of sulfate to the blood and the tissues. This means, first and foremost, getting as much sun exposure to the skin as you can manage. My mom avoided the sun for 30 years. She also goes on, in today's lifestyle, it's difficult to have enough sun, but just spend as much time as you can, basically. The second preventative is just to choose a diet that will support sulfate synthesis and sulfate transport. That is eating foods rich in sulfur, like meat, seafood, eggs, milk, garlic, onions, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cruciferous things. A second step, she says, is to include foods that contain sulfate transporters, like foods with polyphenols and flavonoids. Green tea has polyphenols. Flavonoids are in fresh fruits and vegetables, not frozen. Okay, the polyphenols, are not in frozen because they burst when they freeze. Flavonoids may still be there. So fruits and vegetables, as well as vitamin C and cholesterol. Once again, cholesterol. My life changed when I got my cholesterol up from 114 to 175. I am a new person. New. So, all of these molecules, she says, have in common a 6-carbon ring and 1 hydroxyl group. Basically, they're similar in structure. They're a hexagon with a little alcohol coming off. That's what a hydroxyl is. Hexagon of carbon, okay, with a little alcohol. They all have that in common. And what that does is they can swap sulfate ions. So, and then we're getting into more stuff. So what are some foods that do that? Buckwheat, ginger, coconut oil, brightly colored fruits and vegetables, red wine, turmeric. She theorizes that these have more to do with the fact that they transfer sulfate than even the antioxidants, which a polyphenol is like a type of antioxidant. They consider it a type of antioxidant, so that's just semantics. So that's wrapping up this, except for her final point on Roundup. Roundup is an herbicide. Please don't buy that. If you have cancer and you have Roundup in your house, you're killing yourself. And you're probably killing your neighbors and your kids too, and the animals in the neighborhood, okay, and the bees. Actually, it's been proven you're killing the bees. Roundup has been linked to cancer, birth defects, and other problems. It is a natural antibiotic. It is a natural chelator. It steals your minerals. But it also interrupts sulfate transport and sulfate synthesis. Your tumor, have you ever heard that you don't want to get a biopsy because when they stick the needle in, they burst the encapsulated cell and let the bad stuff out, and then the cancer spreads? Have you heard of that? Well, there's a doctor actually who theorized that if you take large amounts of the amino acid lysine and vitamin C before you get a biopsy, that it would prevent the spread from happening. But my point is, here on a side note, that your tumor's there desperately trying to make the sulfates. So don't add Roundup to the mix. Okay, pretty soon I'm sure some doctor is going to take what I just said and tell you that you should get Roundup injected into your port to cure your tumor. I hope that you all listen to everything that I just said. And I'm sorry, it's like 60 minutes of videos. This was part 3. Please make sure you watch part 1 and 2. Once again, I'm not a doctor. I do have a pre-medical exercise science degree from Florida State University. I did graduate with a 3.45 GPA despite being most of that time a single mother until I got married. I also went through the death of my mother during that time, and I still made it through. So I'm not perfect, but I understand biochemistry. I understand what this woman's talking about. Please consider joining the Weston A. Price Foundation. I think it's like $50 a year. It's a nonprofit. You can claim it on your taxes. They have nutritional research like this. If it weren't for them teaching me about zinc and iodine and cholesterol, I would not be the person I am today. I would not be pregnant 5 months right now. Bam! Okay, I would not be as healthy and happy as I am. And I want you to be healthy and happy too. And whatever choice you make is your choice. And I'm sending much love out to you. And you're in my prayers. Everyone with cancer is in my prayers. Please check out iodine as well, though. I have 3 videos on iodine as well. Not related to cancer, just in general. But please do some research on that. Just don't take too much at a time. That's the biggest thing. Okay, I love you all. And please subscribe. And don't hesitate to donate either if you want to Eden Cultures. Because this is kind of what I do all day, every day. I just try to help people. Have you visited store.edencultures.com yet? I've handpicked hundreds of products that you'll love from America's most trusted online retailer, Amazon.com. You're going to shop there anyway. You might as well support Eden Cultures Media and our talk show and the productions that I feature on my channel by shopping on store.edencultures.com. With categories like media, books and videos, energy balance, family health, fitness, diagnostics devices included, foods that are natural and organic, home and garden, personal care, supplements that you can't beat. You might as well look around. I've weeded through all the stuff you don't want using my experience through these products personally. So please support Eden Cultures Media and all of our productions by shopping at store.edencultures.com today.